Before I begin the video, I'd like to say thank you to the following channel members. Now running in my lobby, Fluffy Chuff Knuffles, Elias IDK, Annette Fisher, Stephen Hughes, and the Yabbick. Click the join button, sign up today, become a decent human, get that title, brag to your friends, your family, the homeless guy on the street who screams at you when you drive by every single day because you don't give him nothing because maybe he's got an addiction. So yeah, why not? Sign up. There's two different tiers. It's easy, simple, set and forget. All right. Now let's transition in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. BlastCapBadger here. Yes, I'm quite sick. I am quite sick, but I got my tea in my gendered boy cup. Gendered boy cup. I think that would be actually something acceptable. I'm not really sure nowadays. It's the land of confusion. But that being said, so I got a request on Discord from one of my MVPs, Brandon Peters. And it's actually an old friend of ours on the channel who has like the absolute best like real life storytelling formats right under Mr. Ballin, I would think. And that person is Azael. Azael, the VR chat god. 911 operator describes his darkest calls, and they're doing a fundraiser, which is doing all right, cool and dandy. I don't make enough, so I can't, send anything to it. Then again, I don't like charities. I don't like charities, and if you're curious why I don't like charities, okay, you have to watch all of my live streams because I explain it multiple times. But anyway, let's see what's going on here. A 911 operator, okay, that's the dispatchers. They're the ones that when someone's getting hurt, burnt, a building's collapsing, people are trapped somewhere, you're drowning or whatever, any type of trouble. When you call 911, there's a person on the other end of the line. That's a dispatcher. All right, that's the operator. And they have to sit there and listen no matter what's happening. And their turnover rate is an insanity scheme. That's what it is. Because it's literally the same as when someone is like, okay, it's not exactly the same, but they're the closest people to the people that the bad stuff's happening to. Before anybody else gets there, it's the operator. Okay? And I've known a couple of them. I didn't know they were operators, but it make a lot of it, how their demeanor is and everything makes sense. And there's that, and they have to sit there and listen while that there was this released video of a 911 operator who had to sit there and listen to some lady getting killed. Someone burst into her bathroom and stabbed her to death. And she was still on the phone when it happened. Just imagine that kind of stuff happening so freaking often. Very often. And you'll get at least maybe barely an inkling of an idea. Because you have to experience these kinds of things to actually understand and empathize. Because otherwise all you can do is sympathize. And even then, that's not much. Let's get into the video.
And I hear them at the end of that call and they say, yeah, he's dead. He's not here anymore. And then they pick up the phone and they say, you can hang up now. And I hang up. I don't care if I happen to survive until I'm 150 years old. These are calls that will always stick with me until the day I die. And it's always going to be a memory in there. It doesn't keep me up. It doesn't bother me in my daily life, but it's always going to be a memory and always something that reminds you of things can always get worse.
How does that make you feel that you're doing something that changes lives and saves them pretty often, I'm guessing?
I can tell you right now, some of the things that I got from this, I feel like it really does make a difference to people, but I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Because at the end of the day, I'm only a voice on the phone. I'm not somebody that can actually be there to try to protect someone and do something. So you feel a little inadequate because you're always being asked to help people, but at the same time, you're not actually physically doing anything to help someone. You're just talking them through and trying to help them that way. Trying to be that calm and stable voice in their mind. to make them to make the right decision, or a conscious decision, or logical decision, that is. And that gets really difficult because sometimes you got people who are wanting to work with you, some people who are very difficult. So it's not something that's very straightforward. You really got to have your character understanding of who these people are and what the correct social interaction is to get them to do what they're supposed to do.
Yep. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are there. There's not too many people who are absolute just scheisse. Not too many. Who are just absolute coleros. But there's enough of them. And you get enough calls, those people seem to sound like they're a huge amount of the population, I would imagine. It's not too different from customer service, honestly, in that regard, in that specific regard. Because if you're a lazy customer service person, okay, and someone's really mean to you, you're just going to be like, look, this isn't my problem. I'm not paid for this. This is above my head. Or you could be like, you know what? To hell with you. Go away. I hate you. Blah, 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 blah. Right? But this person's talking about having to wade through stuff like this, right? Having to adjust their avenue of approach to this interaction, right? And I know a bit about customer service. I've had to do it before, in certain many ways. And basically, it's the difference between actively listening and then, I don't know any other way to put it at the moment, but taking advantage of the little P's and Q's and T's that are in the sentences of what they're telling you, right? And then what you do is that you hone in on those. And then you flip them on their head and, present them back to them, okay? So that they basically understand that you're taking in what they're saying, right? But at the same time, it's a bit manipulative because now all you're doing is that you are, so they have a big ego, they got a big head, all right? They got an attitude. Take advantage of that attitude. Take advantage of that ego. Take advantage of that inflated sense of self-worth, right? And you use that to maneuver them to a point where now, actually, you know what? They're okay with you, and they're like, you know what? This person gets it. This person gets it, right? And now you're able to give them customer service because you've opened the door in their head by taking advantage of those things, right? I don't know another way to say it, really. Someone else might say it's understanding and compassion, and you've come across with love and empathy. The fact that the reality of it is that you have to learn how to wade through a social interaction, okay, and then find those rocks that are in that river of conversation. And then move those rocks in a way to where the stream is now somewhat deviated in your favor, essentially, right? So, yeah. But the raw fact of the matter is that it is manipulation, is taking advantage of points of very specific things, right? And it's basically shifting someone in the direction you want them to go. Okay? You are taking control of how they are thinking of you, the conversation, and the subject matter. Okay? I try really hard not to do this on when I do videos or live streams or something. because I'm not doing customer service, right? I'm not here to like, sell a product or fix your computer or something or anything else, right? I'm just making content. First off, to have a good time because I do enjoy this. Second off, though, I am trying to get the channel to a point where I can start doing cooler stuff. But I'm not going to do it in any of those ways customer service has to do it. Okay? I'm just me. But yeah, there's quite a bit right there, a little tidbit of like how it is if you are, if you are actively trying to do really good at your job and you're a competent customer salesperson or you're, customer service in any way, right? You have to be able to sell a cup of water, essentially. Something like that. Anyway, let's keep going.
So it's not like they give you a class or give you an understanding to where how to talk to people, but rather they remind you of the basic customer service. Like, we're there to perform a service for the public. We're there to help people as best as we can. We're not there to judge them, tell them what we're going to do and what we're not going to do, but rather we're there to put up the call for service regardless of what the circumstance is. So,
Facts.
so I have people who are calling me about the most mundane and worthless things. People calling about McDonald's giving them 3 burgers instead of 4 that they paid for. The very next call I'll get, it'll be a child who is finding their parent overdosed on their couch and doesn't know what to do, but mommy's not breathing. So when you have, it's the severity difference between calls from first one to the next one. You have no idea what you're going to get. I got bomb threats, followed by McDonald's order problems, followed by somebody who thinks they're going to turn into a goat, which is a funny story I can tell you about. And then I got other people who are just going through horrific scenarios, such as finding their children and loved ones dead, people hanging in closets, the screams of people who are losing their families. It's really it's a skill that you need to hone over time. And the only way you're going to get better at it is by doing it.
Have you had any calls that you felt like...
Yeah, training can be a bit of an equalizer for a lot of things, right? But nothing can truly beat hard-won experience that has been built over time. Especially experience that is tempered by one's ability to comprehend, understand, and to practice critical thinking, right? So that they can make the best use of that experience, right? But, you can enter into any job, right? Almost any job. And you're only going to get better as you keep on doing that job if you try to get better while doing that job. But if you're just sitting there and it's a 9 to 5, it's like, whatever. Hello, customer service, can I help you? My computer's doing this and that thing and the other thing. Okay, please reference your computer's manual. Go to section 34, page 34, section C, and it should tell you what to do. Thank you for your call. That's just some dude doing a 9 to 5. That's just someone doing a 9 to 5. They're not even really trying. They're not even really trying. Linus Tech Tip videos on like customer service are the best. They're the best. Love Linus Tech Tips. And he has an incredible beard for a little guy. Then again, I'm not that much taller than him. But yeah, but yeah, experience, especially if you learn from that experience, right? It's really hard to beat. It's really hard to beat. What do you say? Look at like guys who train in milsim all the time versus actual combat vets, right? We saw that like last week, I believe. I believe it was last week. And 3 combat vets were taking out whole houses of people who were doing milsim. All right, guys who are like trying to train to do like, fun shit. But they're getting absolutely wrecked by just three military veterans, just three, and two of them are actually active duty. I believe they were 75th Rangers, and they were going at it against dozens and winning. That's something else, right? That's a stark difference.
Went wrong because of something you did?
Oh, yes. I made mistakes, and I knew how to fix them. The fortunate part is when I made a mistake, I had enough knowledge and training and knowing technical stuff to be able to fix it. But like I had a call to where somebody called in and it pinged in somewhere on I-95, which is the main highway that goes on the east side of America, from all the way from Miami all the way up to like Massachusetts or something. But he was driving through our county and he gave us a quick ping right to I-95, and she just starts screaming for help on the phone. I have no idea what is going on. I don't know if it's she's got a flat tire or somebody's stabbing her, somebody's kidnapping her. I have no idea if it's serious or not. And I accidentally, instead of trying to mute myself so I can do my typing and ask one of my colleagues a question, I accidentally disconnected. So the good news is that there's a lot of support networks, technical stuff to be able to reconnect, play back, ping, get their locations, a lot of other stuff. So I got back a hold of her, but that was a mistake for me accidentally doing a click. But luckily all the mistakes I have was corrected, so I've never made a mistake that was permanent, luckily. So I got some people who did some really terrible things. So there's 911 operators that really, they work hard. And when I mean when they work hard, they really dedicate their lives to helping others. And it's not something that's like real simple. What I mean is some people are there for the money, some people are there for the hours, some people are there to help. And when COVID hit and everyone was going through horrific trauma, people were getting locked inside, people were going through such huge financial changes, being removed from their homes, some people having good things, some people having bad things, loved ones passing. It really was a challenge for the entire office. We had a huge workforce of like, I'm estimating it, I don't know the number, but like 200 people within our dispatch floor. That's between all four shifts, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And we run 12-hour shifts. So yeah, we had over like 200 people or so. And during COVID, within the first year, nobody wanted to catch COVID. They didn't know what the results are. A lot of them didn't want to work. They demanded to work from home. And we lost over 120 personnel within the first year. So we went down from a nice, comfortable level to zero. And what was really difficult at the time is because this happened like 6 months after I just started. It got really difficult because somebody's got to be there to answer the phone. It's not like you're missing a cashier at McDonald's where the manager could just step up and take care of it, or somebody else can do it. You got to have somebody there to answer the phone. And I was doing more than just answering the phone. I was your main teletype operator. I was your 911 dispatcher. I handled like air medical dispatching, handled all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I was handling the 911 calls. So this is all occurring at the same time. It gets really difficult to balance it all, especially when somebody's got to take those extra slots that people are missing, and they give you something called mandatory overtime. It's not optional because you're in public service. You are essential personnel, not optional personnel for people getting food. I was going 60, 70 days in a row with no days off and between 12 to 16-hour days. And that went on for 2-3 years until I finally quit, because it got to a point to where like I didn't see my wife. I wasn't able to take care of my pets. I couldn't take care of my responsibilities. I was never home. All I did was drive to work, be there all day, and come home. When I'm working there 16 hours, I got travel time to go back. I have to eat. I have to shower, take care of myself. I have a wife. I have to take care of a lot of things. So all that time eats up. So you only get like 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and you're driving back again. After after 60 days in a row of that, becomes mentally extremely burdensome and dangerous. It got really difficult. That's why I knew my limitation and I left, because I couldn't do it anymore. I was pretty much practically begging them. I was like, hey, we got to make a change, because if this continues, all it takes is one person to fall asleep on the phone and somebody dies. All it takes is one person to say the wrong thing because they're not thinking clearly because they haven't slept. All it takes is one mistake. Somebody's life is going to be altered forever. Now I'm back into dispatching, but I'm doing air medical dispatching for a bunch of airlines stuff. So when somebody still needs help, still there. I'm not there for public service anymore because it got too much. It was unhealthy.
Yeah, this was something that was a lot of cracks and chinks in the system and in like the workforce and all that kind of stuff was really exposed during COVID. And it was exacerbated and made worse by the stupidity of all these different governors who locked down their states. Okay, people try to blame Trump for freaking what happened during COVID. No, Trump was trying to do all the right stuff. He tried to stop people coming in from China, where the virus originated. That's a known, established, empirical, irrefutable fact that COVID started in China. Nobody can dispute that. Okay? It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. Facts are facts. And you cannot change them. And people tried to blame Trump. Now, is he at fault for Operation Warp Speed? For rushing through these vaccines? Yes. Because to properly, okay, and this has been explained by many medical professionals, don't believe me. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm none of those things. Don't take what I say as gospel. I am not giving advice, recommendations, or suggestions, or none of that other stuff. I can't. But I'm telling you what we know, okay, and even what, the Democrat people are coming out with right now that Republicans have been saying for years. Okay, some Republicans. Others are kind of idiots about it. But yeah. And that is that, Trump tried to shut down, okay, the people going back and forth from China completely. And what did they do? Call him racist, bigot, right? Which was erroneously stupid. Erroneously stupid. You have to quarantine. If you can quarantine a country, right? Or at least prevent them from sending people over here that are sick, then you're good, right? You will very much limit the spread of whatever's going on, and you will have a good amount of initial containment. Okay? But yeah. But, guess what everyone else did? They were like, nope, you got to allow flights in. Okay, so flights are allowed in. And what happened after that? COVID-19 hit the United States. Right? And then lockdowns happened. And when everybody was locked down, people were, forced to try to work from home, or they lost their jobs. And companies, smaller companies and businesses were totally locked down, while bigger companies and businesses were called essential. And so smaller companies were run out of business. People were being forced to work under very, very hard conditions that were exacerbated by the fact that there was a virus going around. Companies were taking advantage of money being sent to them that was supposed to be for their people, but they basically pocketed most of it. All this kind of stuff was happening. And guess who was suffering the most? Guess who was suffering the absolute most out of everybody? Because they're the ones working the jobs. They're the ones who are at that, call center. They are at the dispatcher's office. They are at, these medical facilities. They are, the ones who are putting in the work to keep everything turning and running, right? Those people. The lower and middle class. That's who suffered. That's who got hit the hardest by all of this. And we saw this. And this guy is only proving everything I'm saying. from his experience. And it was all wrong. It was all bad. It was all stupidly done. Now, people try to argue, lockdowns are effective. Okay. Look at Florida statistics. Look at Texas statistics, right? Look at all these states that didn't lock down and let things continue and gave people the option of whether or not to do stuff. And then compare and contrast that with all the states that did lock down, force their people to stay indoors and wear masks even when nobody else was present. Wearing masks in a freaking Zoom call when there's nobody else around you. And they've already got all the stuff he's talking about with all of that added on top. COVID restrictions. All it did was make things worse. And a lot of people realized, what am I even doing with my life? Why am I missing all of this? Why am I being pulled away from my family? Those that I love and care about. Okay? Why am I almost literally working myself close to death for all of this? Okay? Why? So yeah, a huge amount of people started to really question things. They really started to question things. But yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people started to realize that there's a good amount of really bad stuff that's been going on. The majority of people in the middle and lower class have been taken advantage of for a very long time. For a very long time. To the nth degree. The absolute nth degree. And this is something that's agreed with on the left. Right? But unfortunately, they have the stupidest ideas on how to fix that. I mean, look, the left is in charge of the country right now. Look how bad shit's got so far. And it's only getting worse. When are things going to get better? We saw the best years of our lives under Trump. That should tell everybody everything they need to know. Except for COVID, because, well, it was the governors who actually locked down the states for freaking ever. But yeah, a lot of stuff was brought to light under COVID, including the fact that we are not ready. We're too reliant on outside, we're too reliant on, like, well, for instance, China, for cheap goods. And yet, what happened? Everybody's like, no, it's good doing business with China. Why? Why? Who does it actually benefit? It doesn't benefit the middle and lower class. I know that for a fact. It doesn't benefit them at all. Not at all. But it does benefit those who are in the upper class and the elite class. It benefits them greatly. So yeah. And I've already said all my piece about, what my solution would be. I'm not just sitting here complaining. I've said it multiple times. I've already said what my solutions would be to all of this. Both right and left, right? But, of course, people don't want to hear that, right? Anyway, let's continue. This guy is literally proving my point about everything, literally through his experience. But ask anyone who was working during those times. Ask them, and they'll tell you the exact same story.
2 years of, I think last year, for the year of 2021, I think I had, at the end of the day, I finished out my schedule. I only had 7 days off.
Oh my gosh.
Out of an entire year. 7 days off the entire year. I worked Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, birthdays, every day, listening to people die on the phone as they shoot themselves, or a screaming mother who's discovered their teenage daughter hanging inside of a closet.
That's another thing that went up under lockdowns was, people unaliving themselves. There was a stark increase during lockdowns. And ask any psychologist why, and they have a very good idea. People hate Dr. Jordan Peterson, but they hate him because for the most part, with almost everything, he's right. Now, has he made mistakes? Most certainly. Does he miscommunicate a lot of things? Most certainly. One of my points of contention with Dr. Jordan Peterson, though I like him a lot, is that he fails to communicate to people in the way that they can understand. Right? He's too high functioning for most people on average. And for me, it takes like me listening to everything he says multiple dozens of times and then like looking up every single part of what he said so I can understand it. Because as everybody knows, I'm a dumbass. So it takes me a lot to actually understand everything that he's saying, which is a huge point of contention with me, because if he were to break things down to a much simpler level, and then as people start to kind of gain that shared understanding with him from that level, he can start raising it up bit by bit so that more and more people can get into the conversation, understand what's being presented, and understand him better as well. Then again, what room do I have to talk? Because a lot of the time people hate me for stuff I say, but they completely and totally don't understand what I'm trying to say. Partly because I'm a dumbass. I know. You don't have to remind me. Or you can if you want. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, there's a reason why solitary confinement and isolation cells in prisons and stuff, isolation or solitary confinement, they call it the hole. Okay? The reason why the hole is so bad, so scary, and can damage people, okay, is because they're isolated. Human beings are social creatures. We are. We evolved that way. We grow up that way, right? Isolating us from everything in the world. Bub. I'd tell you this much. I've tried it, and I'll say this much. Couldn't handle it. Could not handle it. I was going bonkers within the first 48 hours. And yeah, just no. Never again. Never again. But yeah, that's basically what happened under lockdown. A lot of people were forced to just isolate. And that drives people nuts. So it's no wonder, it's really no wonder, that the self-deletion rates went way up. Way up. And it only exacerbated already existing problems in our society, right? But hey, don't listen to me. Just look all this stuff up for yourself. Like I said, I'm a dumbass. Don't believe everything I say. Go look it up for yourself. Do your own research. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist or a clinical or a clinician or nothing, and I'm not recommending anything or whatever that kind of stuff is, right? But I tell you this much, look it up for yourself, and you're going to find that truth.
You listen to these calls and you hear these primordial screams of these victims.
What percentage of the total calls you get end with someone dying while you're there?
Well, that's a loaded question. The reason why is because we get a lot of suicide calls, but the majority of them are people who are not serious. They're not. What they are is their cries for help, or homeless people saying that they're going to commit suicide because they're tired of living on the street, and they know if they do that, they have a week inside of a psych center. We got teenagers who said they're going to do it because they heard it somewhere online and they think it's going to change something or make something better because they have a poor home life. They're not serious about it, but they're trying to make changes in their life for the better by using public services or something. That's usually the majority. The people who commit suicide, they don't ask us for help. What they do is that they do it. And we get the last moment as they do it. They call us and they say, hey, I had this guy who was traveling from, I don't know, somewhere. He would check in one of the hotels. He barred his door and he prevented it to where nobody can really enter easily. And he went into the bathroom. He sat in a tub and he locked the bathroom door and barricaded that too. And he said, I can't handle life anymore. I want you to tell my wife, this is where my body is. I want you to tell them I love them, but I can't handle this anymore. Too much pressure, and I can't live with it. So this is where I am, and he gave me an address. What he did is that he slit his wrist. And he just sat back with the phone open, and I can't hang up the phone at all. It's against our policies and stuff, so I have to listen there as I'm listening to him breathe. And it gets shallower, and he gets gas for air, and he just loses all functionality, and you hear the life leaving him. And you have to listen to it the entire time. And you have to continue, even after you know he, or really think he does, because you're not hearing anything. You have to still try to reach out to him. Hopefully he fell asleep. Like, you tried to lie to yourself a little. But you have to stay on the line until the units are there with him. And they see him. And they see that phone next to him. So I had to listen for like 20 minutes as this guy slowly died and passed into the afterlife. As they kicked in the door, got with management, they did all this stuff, moved the stuff, and I hear them asking for it. And I hear them at the end of that call, and they say, yeah, he's dead. He's not here anymore. And then they pick up the phone, they say, you can hang up now. And I hang up. So when somebody's serious about suicide, they're going to do it. You're not going to stop them. You're not going to convince them. When they're determined, there's nothing that you can do to stop them. And they're not going to call us for help.
It just shows how tolerance to pain is so diverse through different brains. I know that things that would push me over the edge would be things that other people could just make it through, you know?
Yeah. And I also learned that I always was a firm believer before I joined 911 that everyone was smart. Everyone was capable of doing anything they want, but it was a matter of application and desire to do it. I've learned at this job that isn't the case. Like, I've learned that, and it's sad that it's not, but some people are not developed to where they can understand things or grasp things as quickly or as fully as others. And it's really eye-opening because everyone's different. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone has different levels of understanding of what is important to them and what considers a drastic emergency in their life. Honestly, there was a call. It was pretty horrific.
And here we get to basically what's happened is that his experience on 911 has disillusioned, something that is true, right? That that everyone has the potential, the capacity, and the ability to make it through life, to put it very simply. But not everyone is developed, nurtured, and through nature and nurture has been enabled to realize that potential and to make it reality, right? And this has come from somebody who has attempted it 3 times themselves. I know that feeling. I know that struggle. I've been through it, been there, done that, quite literally. And what he says is still true, except for me, a lot of my nature and nurture was done basically myself. A lot of it, right? And not everyone just has that, I don't even know how to describe it, that thing where it's like, or luck also, because I was lucky. I don't know how. Don't even ask me how, because even the doctors didn't know. The doctors had no idea. I talked about it so many years later to where it wasn't even a major big thing. They weren't like, oh my gosh, like you need to go to an asylum now. No, it wasn't anything like that. It was years later. Um, but yeah, and the doctors couldn't explain how I survived. Just like I couldn't explain how I survived everything that I went through in when I was overseas, where I survived things that I'd seen other people go through, that they didn't come out the other side of, but somehow I did. And yeah, it is true that if someone has the desire, the determination and will to make it through life, they can. They can. But it also has to do with perception of reality. Your reality, right? Because if you're someone that just cannot make it to where you can have, $100,000 a year in a big mansion, all that kind of stuff, if that's your metric of success and you have not achieved it when you thought you should have you really set a realistic bar for success for yourself? That's where a huge amount of people's problems come from, right? Is that they set really unrealistic bars of expectation for themselves. And because they never achieve that, then everything goes downhill from there. I'm not saying that's everyone, but I'm just saying that's a huge amount of it, right? And look, I struggle with that myself. I'm sure most of y'all are aware. I struggle with that a great deal. The self-deprecation is real. Um, but yeah, he's both right and both wrong, but not in the paradoxical way. Because it is true that if someone has that desire, determination, and will to make it through life, they can. But some people choose to buckle. They choose to break, right? Here's the thing. Here's why it is a choice. But it's not a choice for everybody, right? For some people, there is just something that does not add up for them at all. Those people exist. I'm not saying everybody absolutely, totally, 100 million percent is able to just do stuff. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that there are some people who were not through nature and nurture enabled to have that capacity. And even though they may still have the potential, while you're alive, you have potential. You do. But unfortunately, their capacity was never developed. And that leads to people suffering and then incurring on themselves more suffering on top of everything else that's going on. That's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to deal with. I know. I go there all the time, as you could probably tell. But yeah, some people just choose to give up. That is a choice. It is an option. Is it the best one? No. I don't think it is. Is it the one that makes anything better? Well, I mean, sure, if everything ends for you, then there's no worries or problems or anything like that. You're no longer experiencing this reality. but you have definitely affected everybody around you. So it doesn't make anything better for anybody else. So yeah, enough of me rambling. My bad. Let's keep going.
So I got this call, and what it was is homeless people that were living behind a Michael's. It's an arts and crafts store. And there was an entire camp back there of homeless people, which I'm sure a lot of people are unfortunately familiar with. And this guy called in, and he's talking very faintly. And he's like, I need help. I've been stabbed. And at first, you're just like, because you don't know what kind of call you're going to get at first, you are just done dealing with 10 people who have problems with their McDonald's orders. And then all of a sudden, you get the call that says, I've been stabbed. And the first question that you're going to ask is, where are you? It's because a lot of people don't understand that 911 doesn't know where people are all the time. We just don't. We're not like the movies to where you pick up the phone and you say, help, I need somebody here now. And then you hang up and people know magically where you are. So it was very difficult getting an address from this person or a location, an intersection. Michael's is a big retail store, and there's not one of them inside of our city. There's like 7. So I have no idea where this guy is. And he's just sitting there begging on the phone for help. Later on in the call, I end up finding where it is by doing a bunch of technical jargon stuff, a bunch of technical stuff. I end up finding out where he is. It took a while, but I got him. And we got units headed out there, and this girl picks up the phone because he stopped responding to me. And I'm thinking the worst. And she said, and starts screaming at me, what is wrong with you? Why can't you just get somebody here? And I point blankly say, ma'am, I have no idea where you are. I just found out and I think you are here. Could you tell me if that's right? And she's just ignoring me, saying, get someone here now. Get somebody here now. I can't believe Johnny would do this. And I'm like, who is this Johnny guy? Now, of course, one of the questioning after figure out where they are, I want to know where the perp's description is. I want to know where they went. I want to know everything about them, what they're wearing, what weapon was it, or if they have a firearm. I need to know that for my officer's safety and to find this guy. So I'm asking him, who's Johnny? Where is he? What did he do? Like, wanting to know to make sure we had the right guy. And she tells me, this guy was an ex-boyfriend and he was one of the stalker types. And this guy couldn't really understand and comprehend that it was their relationship has been finished. That he needs to find somebody else, and this guy was possessive. So what he did is because he knew that she was homeless, and he knew that whatever guy she was seeing was homeless. And what he did is that he pretty much stalked her down, saw her with this guy inside of a camp, inside of a tent. And he went over there and he got that moment of passion where he felt that he was betrayed, and he didn't want to hurt the one that he loved. So he took it out on the guy that she replaced him for. And he ran right up to the tent, sliced open the side of the tent, as the guy is shocked and laying there trying to sleep or whatever. I don't know what he was doing. And he goes right down there and just starts stabbing the guy right in the stomach. And she starts screaming. The guy gets scared. He realizes he really shouldn't have done that. He drops the knife and starts running as fast as possible. And that's when this called and he picked up the phone and said, I've been stabbed. These people who are attacking each other with physical harm, they're drug related, they're personal, and it's never really random. I'm not saying random events don't happen. They do. Like carjackings, things like that. They do happen. But the rate in which those things happen are so far apart.
Carjacking isn't random. If somebody wants to carjack, they're making a choice. And more often than not, no matter what they say in court, they have decided that what they are doing is more important. You know? I mean, they're taking a car. Obviously, they want to take the car to do something with it. Sell it, use it to run something, use it to run away or something like that. They don't care about who's inside. when you choose to be a criminal, well, that's your choice, right? That's a choice. It's not a random thing. It randomly happens to good people. That's the major difference there. I don't like that dispassionate description of like where it's like, oh, these random things just happen to people. No. Random someone else's choices can affect someone else randomly. Right? That's much more apt, I think. But I get what he's saying.
I'll get 400 calls of personal attacks that have people who know each other before I get one random one. And those are attacks of opportunity. So somebody leaves their car door wide open and they have a bunch of money obviously all over them, jewelry or whatever, and they're weak like an old granny or something, and they're in a bad neighborhood. So somebody sees the person is vulnerable and there's a lot of reward for it. They'll go right up to them and they'll do it. But yeah, those are just moments of opportunity for these criminals. A lot of homeless people, or like a good portion of them, like a good percentage, are people that have mental problems. There used to be a time back in the 70s and 80s and all back in the 90s, they had facilities there to help and take care of people with mental conditions. They would bring them to an institution and they would help them with their problems. Nowadays, they shut those all down. I'm not saying they were all perfect because they obviously weren't. Okay, everyone's heard the horror stories, and I'm pretty sure most of them were like that. But there used to be a place where they would take care of them. They shut them all down. All the public funding for all of those have disappeared. So all these mentally ill people that are incapable of holding a job, all those people that have problems are homeless. So what they do is that they live where they can and they try to do what they can to survive. Because we'll get people, because I live in Florida, we have hurricanes. They'll see on the news or on a TV somewhere or radio, whatever, know that there's a hurricane coming. So they don't want to be outside during the hurricane. They have nowhere to go. I know we have shelters available, but there's only so many beds and you have to do travel and all these other things. And a lot of them are just not mentally capable of getting that organized and done. They have mental issues. So what they do is that they do a crime in order to be put away. Because at least if they do that crime and get put away, they have a bed to rest on. They get meals. They get treated better in prison than they do on a street. You want me to tell you some funny stories or some sad stories? Or
Let's go with funny. We need a break.
Okay, so I'll tell you about this goat guy. We got
Facts. You can only absorb so much negative before you start feeling the negative yourself.
this portion of our city, like all cities do. And again, I work for the county, so we do dispatching for all 13 cities inside of our county. We are one consolidated center, and every 911 center is different. But this one, we handle 13 different cities.
Oof. See, I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like that kind of thing. When you centralize anything, it makes things worse. Okay, I'm a believer in the idea of decentralization, right? You know, let's say you have there's 3 neighborhoods within where I live, right? Each neighborhood has at least like 5,000 people. Okay. Yeah. If you have just one dispatch, let's take the entire county I live in. There's around 11 cities in my county, technically, right? Which they're not very big cities. One city has 100,000 people. Another one has 80,000. Another one has I want to say it's 200,000, something like that. But you only have one dispatch center for all of them. Does that sound very efficient and conducive to public safety and health? I don't think so. That's why I want a lot of decentralization, okay? Let each community, all right, let each city, and each neighborhood in that city have its own dispatch, its own police, station, its own fire station, all that kind of stuff. Decentralize that out, and you'll figure out that if you want more efficiency, you have to place these centers, right, for public safety and health and morale and welfare. You want them in the center of at least like each major neighborhood at the most, where there's like 5,000 people. If you have like let's say you have 500 police for 5,000 people. That's pretty good, don't you think? Instead of having like 1,000 police to police 100,000. That doesn't sound very conducive, does it? So that's why I'm a believer in that kind of thing. The way they do it with this top-down heavy kind of thing just does not do well. It doesn't do well. And we see the statistics on it.
And one of these cities has a really poor area, like all counties do and most cities do. In our city, our street or poor area is called Jean Street. The locals reference it as Soul City. They give it a whole different name because nobody really wants to be there in their own separated community because of how the social norm is there. So, the guy calls in from Jean Street. His name is Jamal. And he says, I was setting off fireworks in the middle of the parking lot, which is illegal, by the way. So he admitted to me on the recorded line that he did a crime, but he says this big old lady comes up to him and says, if you don't stop setting off fireworks, I'm going to practice voodoo on you and turn you into a goat. Jamal said to me, because I made sure to ask him, like, Jamal, do you think you're going to turn into a goat? And he's like, I do not think I'm going to turn into a goat, but I want a cop here anyway to record this. And I'm just like, great. We're sending resources because of a threat of turning somebody into a goat. Not somebody needs that cop more, but okay. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to put up a call for service because I am public service and I'm putting up this call. I put up the call for service. And 20 minutes later, a cop comes out there. And normally, us 911 operators, we don't always get to know the ending of our calls. We don't know if they got better or they got worse. We get to a certain point and we're done and we're moved on to the next. But I kept this one open in my background because I wanted to revisit it to see how it goes. And I go and look it up later, and I get the police number and police report number, and I'm like, wow, this thing actually got a police report number? Because not all of them get it. They all get call numbers associated, but police reports. That means a cop filled out paperwork for this. And I look it up. I go through the network. I get the copy of it, and it says, the officer, and I quote, Jamal did not believe that he was going to turn into a goat. But just in case if he did turn into a goat, he wanted to make sure his parents would know who did it. And then I got the lady who called in and she's like, I'm like, 911, where's your emergency? And she says to me, look, it's not an emergency. I really need to know whether or not it's illegal for me to do something. So at the time we have non-emergency and emergency calls and we were low on people. And I'm like, okay, let me transfer you over to the non-emergency line. She says, fine. I transfer her over. And it comes right back to me. I'm like, okay, this is not awkward, but I just go, okay, how can I help you, ma'am? She says the same thing. She wants to speak to a cop. And I'm like, okay, but you got to tell me what your question is so I can prepare them so they can have your answer. And they tell me. They want to know whether or not they can catch and eat the squirrels around her house. And I said to her, well, I don't know. I'll go find out. I had to look up the call and the code if whether or not you're allowed to catch and eat squirrels around people's houses in this one city. It's amazing the things that I have to learn and research. By the way, as a result, yes, you can, at least in this one city, yes, you can catch and eat the squirrels around the house because they're viewed as rodents. And this woman says to me, oh, thank God, I don't have to go to the store tonight. Thank you.
What the hell? Normal human behavior.
Yes, 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 normal human behavior.
Wait,
I don't have to go to the store tonight. We're having squirrel soup. Just what the hell? I need some more tea. But yeah, what the hell? I'd expect that. I expect that from like out in the country, like in the burbs. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't expect that from somebody that lives in the city. That's kind of funny.
wait, but going back a little bit, you said you don't get to know how the calls end? That must get to you.
It really depends because it goes to the point to where when we hang up, our call ends and we go back available for the next person. So we don't get to know the ending. We don't know if that person got saved. Or majority of the time we don't. Because when the units get there, they will leave notes inside of there, but once they get transported to the hospital, the emergency services are done. So we don't know whether or not this person survived in the hospital. We don't know whether or not the teenager who cut their wrist but still bleeding out is still alive. We have no idea. But the times that we do know is when the person is announced as NCNV, which is no code, no vitals. When we see that notation inside of there, that means when that cop or firefighter, ambulance person went up to that person, they were dead. 100% declared dead. That's when we know the result. I had one disputed call. Old guy calls in, and I was still within my first 6 months of being on the floor. They put you in training for 3 months, and they go through classrooms and everything beforehand, but I was on the floor for less than 6 months, so you would think they got more experience being on the floor that much, but you are still unsure of yourself until you at least reach like 2 or 3 years. That's when you start getting comfortable. But this guy calls in, and he's an elderly man, and he says, hey, my medical alarm just went off and said there's a problem. I feel fine, but there's some kind of problem with this thing. And I called my doctor, and he said to call you immediately. So at the time, I didn't know like what kind of service to put it up for because yes, we have a straightforward questions we need to ask, but it was generating as a Med 2 call, which is not emergency, but still medical for them to come out there. And I'm like, and I really feel that it had to be upgraded. I went over to my supervisor and I said to them, hey, look, I know you told me that I'm not allowed to manually upgrade these. So I'm coming to you to review it because I feel that this thing needs to be upgraded. And I would like you to do it manually. Person reviewed it, and they said after staring at it for like what felt like forever, and they were like, no, it's fine. The medical person comes out there, and it turns out that I'm not sure if it was a defibrillator or pacemaker, something that was built into his heart, had an automatic response to a machine that he has inside of his house. And the thing was saying system failure. When they got there, he went unconscious and stopped breathing while they were putting him into the ambulance. And they got there pretty quick too. They were not put on hold. They just drove there. Sometimes people get put on hold on non-emergencies depending on what's available. If we were 1 minute late, that guy would have been dead. 1 minute later, the guy would have been dead. But the thing is, they brought this guy to the hospital. They never announced no code, no vitals, but they said the person had breathing problems, the person was not conscious, and all these other things. And I don't know if this guy died or not. I don't know if he ever recovered because he did go unconscious and he stopped being responsive. They didn't announce the NCNV for no code, no vitals. So I don't know if this guy died or not when they got to the hospital. So I don't know if my insistence of wanting to make this priority, if I would have just done it and gotten there like 5 minutes sooner than what they did, it could have saved his life or not. I have no idea.
That just sounds so psychologically torturous, to be the one who's supposed to be saving lives and not even knowing if it works.
Well, I could tell you a few times I did save people's lives, and it was confirmed. I got a bunch of the lifesaver pins, and they're like little special pins that you get for yourself, and you can put them whatever. It's like a little awards. Because what they recognize is that they give you this pen, and when they do, it is a entire departmental recognition that what you did saved this person's life. And if you didn't pick up the phone, they would have been dead. And it was confirmed across the boards. Either giving CPR instructions, giving them life instructions, things like that, like running, doing certain things. And a lot of calls where they pick up and they're like, my son's not breathing. And I'm like, okay, we need to know what happened to him. And additionally, we got to start CPR immediately. And I need you to make sure this guy is not breathing. Because if he is breathing and you're doing CPR on him, you are going to severely hurt this person and it is not going to help a thing. So you need to go down there and check if this person's breathing. And if they're not, we need to start immediately on compressions. So you're keeping them paced like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you listening to me? Are you paying attention? Keep going. 1, 2, 3. Are they breathing yet? Going on and on and on. And during those calls, a lot of people who go through cardiac arrest or stop breathing and they have to do CPR for this person to come back. I'll tell you right now, 90% of these people that get to that point where you have to do that, 90% of them do not come back. They die. It is very rare for you to actually bring them back. And during those cases to where we get those CPR calls, a few of them, because I was able to talk this person through it, because I picked up the phone and told them what to do, I was able to bring these people back to life. And during those times is when I got those lifesaver pins. That means when they got there, the ambulance knew that this person was not breathing at the time. And if I didn't give them those instructions and tell them what to do and how to handle things and maintain this person's beating heart before the units get there, they would have been dead.
That's amazing. And
oh man, this is a long one. If anyone watches this entirely, thank you. Let's keep going.
and you said you have several of these from your work.
Yeah, I have confirmed gotten a lot of lightsaber pins. When I mean a lot, I view it as a lot, but the number's not staggering. It's only 7. But those are 7 people that would no longer exist if I didn't pick up the call.
That's 7 human beings that you allowed to continue living because of your training and skill.
That's right.
That's incredible.
Look, I'll tell you right now, handling those calls and being there was not a problem. I can take those calls, and I have a passion to helping people and doing that. I could work 911 until the day I die. No problem. And I could take all sources of problems and calls. What I couldn't handle was working 60 days straight. 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day, not sleeping, having problems at home because I'm not there to take care of them. If I can't have a good balance of where I can live my life and not be a slave, that's why I quit. I couldn't do it. It wasn't, at a certain point, you have to take care of yourself and know when to stop helping others. I still got a job. I'm still saving people, but I'm just doing it with a different agency.
Facts.
Or at this case, it's a private company. And what they do now is that I handle the dispatching from when these people have these problems. I figure out all the coordination and dispatching to get those private planes to them, to get them from these rare and all through the Caribbean and stuff like that, get them out of those kinds of crap situations, get them in the air and take them back to either like Puerto Rico or Miami or Trinidad and Tobago, any one of them, and I get them the help that they need to do. So I'm still helping people on a regular basis. And I wish I was still doing 911, but I just couldn't do it anymore. Not because of the stress, not because of the calls, not because I couldn't mentally handle it. It's because I couldn't balance my life.
If you're doing something that important, sacrificing your sanity for it isn't not only gonna hurt you, it's going to hurt your ability to do the work. If you can't sleep enough, if you can't go to work with the motivation to do it, how are you going to save those lives as effectively as if you are feeling like shit because of it? It's not only unsafe for you, it's unsafe for the people you're trying to save if you can't see straight, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Facts. And this is why I this is why I do a lot of like so quite often when I'm talking to people about the military, okay, I really harp on leadership. I really do. Because leadership drastically fails across the military. I mean, we saw it with what happened with Lieutenant Colonel Shelley or Scheller or whatever. Um, and we've seen it with multiple instances, like what happened with Vanessa Gillen, and there's been like 10 different things that came to light recently. It's hard to keep track of them all. But yeah, overall, it's leadership failures. What I call, and you've probably heard me say this a few times, guys with rank. It's just a guy with rank. They're not a real leader. They're not. They don't take seriously the NCO creed, right? You got officers who don't take the officer's creed seriously, and neither of them care for the morale, health, and welfare of their troops. They just tell them, hey, suck it up and just do the job. Do what you're told, right? People aren't robots, nor should they be expected to be so. Not at all. And yeah, that's why a lot of the times I'm like, look, there's a lot of shit leadership in the military. There's a bunch of it. There's a huge amount of it. Because you're getting guys with rank, as I describe them. If you don't take care of the morale, health, and welfare of your troops, and you don't make that the top priority, not only do they suffer, but their performance suffers. Okay? Your team's performance suffers. Your squad performance suffers. Your platoon performance suffers in every single respect. Every single way possible. And then when all of that is suffering greatly, the mission suffers greatly because of that. If you take care of your troops, they're going to take care of you. Okay? If your dude's home life is good, all right, if his morale is high and his welfare is straight and balanced, or at least set on the path to be so, to where they don't got to worry about that shit, you're going to see performance go through the roof. You're going to see your missions be executed to such an incredibly, I'm talking orders of magnitude difference in execution of the mission. Orders of magnitude. That's nothing small at all. That's not the movement of a decimal point. That's the movement of whole numbers. If you don't take care of the morale, health, and welfare of those for whom you cannot do a mission, if they're not able to actually be there, you have no mission. So yeah, as a leader, not only are you supposed to provide purpose, direction, and motivation for your troops while they're at work, but you have to make sure their morale, health, and welfare is given priority over everything. But what do we see right now? Okay, we see leadership failure across the board, and it's present literally in the retention and recruitment numbers. There are thousands on thousands on thousands short of goal because of leadership failures, and it's very clear and apparent. Also, because of the woke garbage that's being shoved into the uniform, which all that does is create a hostile work environment. Okay? So yeah, it's no wonder that people are exiting in droves. They're ETSing in droves. And not a lot of people are signing up. There's a reason why that's happening. And it's because you are promoting people who got no business being leaders. So yeah, people really need to get their shit together. They really do. I'm talking to you, military.
That
Also, the same thing applies to like corporations, businesses, public service, all of it. All of it is suffering from very shit leadership. All of it. Okay? All of it. And that's why you're seeing, as this guy describes it, it's like, he's like, I shouldn't have to be a slave. No, you shouldn't. And nobody should expect you to.
I kept trying to talk them about it, and I wasn't the only one. We had a huge problem within the agency, and it got to a point to where it's like everyone was leaving, and everyone was working all these days, and people who have been there for 25 years was like, I can't live like this, and they were quitting. 25 years of like built up pensions and retirements. They're leaving because they can't do it anymore. When it gets that bad that the people were there for their entire lives and known everybody going in and out the door, you can't keep anyone new because they hit the floor for 2 days and they're just like, I have 22 days in a row. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. Like, I barely got out of training. I don't even know what to do. And then they get a call like, help me. I need help right now. My boyfriend's kicking in the front door, and you're hearing the slamming against that door, and she's screaming for help, and she's not cooperating and telling you where to go, what to do. And you're just sitting there when you're new. You're sitting there and you're just like, I gotta send someone, and you're clicking that ping button, hoping that it would actually show where this person is, and you're not getting a location. They're not responding to you. This person's screaming. Now she says this guy's got a knife. You hear glass breaking, and you're just like frozen. When you expose brand new people to that, and they don't go through that one day where they have that bad day, they go through that every day, and they don't get that recovery day to be able to recover from it and just take a breather. And they have to do that one day, and then a second day, then a third day, then a 15th, then 17th day in a row, 18th day in a row, and you don't sleep, and then you get it again, and then they quit. You can't keep anyone. And no matter how much they want to help other people, you can't keep them because you break them with all the extreme stress and burdens that you put on them. You literally break the people that are trying to help. I understand the management portion because somebody's got to answer the phone. But at the same time, you're not taking care of the ones that you have.
Do you have any advice for people that really are dedicated to the idea of doing this kind of work?
If you want something that's going to be very rewarding and help people and save people's lives, go for 911. But if you want something that's going to be a career where you're going to advance, realize that public service is a service to your public. It's not something that's going to make you rich. So my advice is to be there for the right reasons, not for the financial. And additionally, understand that everyone has different perspectives, and the best thing that you can do for someone, and especially your neighbor, your friend, your pets, your parents, whoever, is to show patience. Because everyone is going through something.
Patience is a virtue.
And everyone's problems, even though they may seem as insignificant to you, that person may have never faced the challenge before. So the first time that you went through that challenge, just consider that. It was big to you that day when you went through it. That's what they're going through now. And if you guys are interested in learning more about 911, going over actual real 911 calls, and getting more of an understanding and speaking directly to me, I was thinking about starting up a channel or maybe a Twitch stream and just to discuss about how things go and playing live calls over it. If you're interested, just let me know and say something.
Yes, there will be a link to his channel in the description the moment this video goes up, so go ahead and subscribe to that.
All right, there we go, folks. There we go. Azael. 911 operator describes his darkest calls. Bub. What a roller coaster. What a severe roller coaster. But yeah, there's some really serious problems going on over the last few years that are only getting worse because of really shit leadership. Shit. We're talking top down, right? Biden administration, all the bureaucrats in the administrative, branch of our government, down to like these governors that don't actually care about people and only care about an agenda, a cause, an ideology, or they just or corporations and stuff that just care about money and treat their people like crap. There's a lot of this going on. But yeah. And the stuff this dude had to listen to. Freaking hell. That's tough. It's really tough. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. Okay, this one was super long. I'll be surprised if anybody watches this. If you do, thank you. I greatly appreciate you. You're here till the end. You might as well join. You might as well click that join button that's like down there somewhere. It's behind the subscribe button. It's only like, I think it's like $1.99 a month, then $4.99 a month, something like that. Also, you get some perks during live streams when I'm able to get the live streams back up again because I got technical issues because, well, caveman. So yeah, what did y'all think? Y'all let me know. All right. You know what time it is. You like me? You like these kind of things? You like my kind of content? Then like, share, comment, and subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button called the notification bell. Or even better, jump into the Discord. The link will be in the description box down below. So you join the Discord and actually get notified, directly notified, when I put anything up. Because YouTube doesn't send out notifications unless they want to. That's their choice. So that being said, be good, be safe, make good life for yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. BlastCapBadger out.